Hi there, and welcome back to How to Sell in Any Economy. This is episode 12 of our web series based on the principles of our bestseller. And when I say our, I'm referring to my amazing co-authors, Lee Cassells and Brownlee. Last episode, we talked about how to sell in a bust economy. In other words, how to iterate or adapt your strategy when the economy seems to be retracting. And a lot of people don't consider what to do differently when things are going really, really well. But the fact is, some companies even close their doors during a boom economy. So, Lee, what do companies have to be aware of, and what should they watch out for when things are going really well?
One of the main things that I see on a consistent basis is when companies are doing really well and they're selling a lot and there's a lot of money coming in, a lot of the times they won't figure out that rainy day fund. So they won't start putting money away to one side for potentially a bust economy like the COVID-19 scenario. Uh, this is where a lot of companies have fallen into problems. 2019 was a great year for many companies. They overspent, they over leveraged, they over borrowed. And now something like this happens where they have to close the doors for 2 weeks or 2 months. And unfortunately, they might not reopen again because they just didn't practically put that money away so that they could hopefully weather the storms of things like this. The other thing is definitely watch their expenses. As money comes in, a lot of times the tendency is great. We've got $1 million a month coming in now. That's fantastic. We're now going to hire another 5 sales guys because if we have another 5 sales guys, then we can bring it to 1.5 million. And it doesn't always equate that way straight away. It might take 3 months, 6 months, 9 months of a ramp speed to get those sales guys up and running. However, the company's banked on having 1.5 million next month. And all of a sudden you're 500 grand backwards because you've started paying sales guys, you've started paying commission, or your advertising increased, your lead generation's increased. So the big kind of point would just be manage and monitor your expenses correctly. Like stick with the plan you had in place of this is how a successful company is going to run and operate, regardless whether we're in a boom economy or a not boom economy. And this is where this money is going to go as we go along. So that would be my big advice on that.
Perfect. Catherine, what do you have to add from your perspective on what companies must watch out for when things are going really well?
Consistent marketing campaigns and BD outreach is really important. Clients and prospects, if they're watching your brand or they're used to your regular communication, they do get used to that. And in fact, we've had a newsletter that's gone out for over 20 years. And there's been times where I didn't feel like we had enough to say, or there hadn't been enough community events to promote to send something out. And I've had people come back and say, has your newsletter stopped, or are you not doing that anymore? And I took that as excellent feedback, and it's true. So we ensure that it goes out at least once a month now. No, whether it's boom or bust economy, there's always something to say. We just collect the relevant information that our subscribers want to see, and then providing value, leading up front with that go-givers mentality. If you've read that series, I know you guys have, and you have that attitude where you lead with value and try to provide free value or complimentary value to them and their organization or their family. In fact, I think a lot of our successes have been when we meet someone where they are personally and ensure that we're supporting them in a whole way. And maybe it's something that we can actually do for them, for their family as well. And what a way to ensure that you're sticky forever is to be friends with their spouse or their kids even.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think it's so important to consider because, to both of your points, a lot of companies just kind of go status quo when things are going really well, or they take it for granted, but we really can't. And a couple of things that we want to consider as well is when things are going really well, the economy starts to shift, there's more jobs. And so it's far more likely that especially your high performers might be getting job offers from competitors or even completely different industries. So one thing is that a lot of companies don't consider in a great economy is that they might lose key staff, which actually affects their capacity. Now you're not even in a position to produce or sell your product or service as fast. You can't even take advantage of the increased customer demand. When there is increased customer demand, of course, there's going to be increased competition as well. And so kind of piggybacking off of your points, Lee, if we can preserve some of that extra cash flow, some of our extra profit, and reinvest it into research and development, then when a whole bunch of new competitors enter your space, well, you can be looking at new service offerings, new product, new technology that you can stay ahead of those new competitors. So I think what we're all saying is, even when the economy is doing amazing things and new millionaires are formed by the day, no company can afford to be complacent, and no company can continue to just do things the way they've always done just because they've always done them that way. We want to make sure we're looking at our strategy even when things are going well, which is harder to do because when things aren't going well, everybody looks at their strategy. When things are going well, sometimes people just look at their bank balance and party. So we don't want to say you can just work 24/7. Of course, that's not our advice. Our advice falls more in line with continue to work smarter, not just harder, but don't take even a great economy for granted. There's always more we can do to remain valuable for the longer term. So this has been episode 12 of How to Sell in Any Economy. On behalf of my colleagues, Lee Cassells and Catherine Brownlee, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time for episode 13 of How to Sell in Any Economy.